Hey, this is Michael from Dark Tranquillity.
Beautiful. Nice to meet you. You're finally touring Australia after over a decade. How does it feel to return and perform here?
It feels fantastic. At the same time, it's kind of embarrassing the fact that we haven't been coming around your parts in 10 years. It's not for lack of
Yeah.
trying. I can assure you that. Um, but it's finally it's happening, and we've been talking about it, and we've been trying so many times, trying to kind of work out the logistics of making a whole tour. Um, and now it's finally kind of it came together finally, and yeah, we're really excited. There's so much stuff that we haven't played for you guys, and and I think the last two tours that we did for this new album, we went to America first and then Europe. It's some of the best we've ever done. I think we're in a very good place, and it's time we share that experience, and bring that experience to you guys as well. So I'm
Yes.
super stoked.
Yeah, long overdue, I think.
Oh yes.
You've been around for over 3 decades now, shaping the Gothenburg sound alongside bands like In Flames and At the Gates. How do you feel about how do you feel about the evolution of the scene, and what role do you see Dark Tranquillity playing in it today?
Oh wow. I don't know. I'm incredibly proud of the fact that we've been doing this for so long, and it still feels good and works, and people seem to be still very much interested in what we do. It's amazing, and I don't know. I mean, it's always weird talking about like how a scene kind of affected where we don't really view it that way. We're just friends hanging out in this small town of ours, and
Yeah.
try to kind of come up with music that we to inspire each other and to impress each other and to have fun together. Um, but it's been incredibly cool to see over the years just how impactful that has been, and that something that we just started, in the suburbs of Gothenburg 30 years ago has taken us 20 trips around the world in order to play our music for everybody, and it's incredible, and I'm really proud of that of what we have accomplished and our friends, of course. So it's such a incredibly cool thing, and it's fun to see that there is a new generation now that comes out of the show. Obviously we have an older demographic maybe overall, but everybody's bringing their kids, and now you see this 15-year-olds or 25-year-olds who kind of grew up with this music through their parents, which
Yeah.
is kind of crazy in a way, and something of course I've never thought would happen 20, 30 years ago, but it's a beautiful thing to behold, really.
Yeah. Oh, it must be. It must be so nice to see that as well, that it transcends all those generations. It's so lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your latest album, Endgame Signals, has just been released. Could you talk a little about the creative process behind it and how it compares to previous records?
Yeah. It, it was our 13th album, so obviously it's a bit difficult because it has to be kind of in relation and in conversation kind of with the previous 12, and how do you deal with that, and where do you go musically? And I think this one, the added kind of difficulty or hurdle was that we changed the lineup quite a bit the last couple of years, like especially during the pandemic. Priorities kind of shifted, and and for years, like main songwriter's been Anders Givart, our drummer, and when he left, we were like, okay, now we have to kind of write in a different way. And I think, and Johan joined the band for this previous album for Moment, but that's when he kind of started learning how to kind of write together with us. So with this album, it was Johan and Martin Brännström and I who kind of sat down and it's like, okay, what do we do this time? How can we prove that we are still very relevant, and how can we prove that to ourselves that we need to kind of keep this going and write something that means something to us, all these years later. And so it became an incredibly important album for us.
Yeah.
And and I guess overall we talked a lot about our kind of feelings and where we were in the world and how we felt, like what was happening, and things are pretty bleak overall. And I think that kind of struck us, and we ended up talking about it a lot. We were on tour in the US like 3 years, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And we had just kind of left Ukraine, and the war broke out. All these things kind of like coalesced, and we were kind of going through like a light depression,
Yeah.
and realized like what are we really doing? Like what is our purpose in all this? Like, are we just entertainers,
Yeah.
dancing around on stage, screaming and shouting, And it felt so insignificant. And I think
Yeah.
that's what we kind of carried with us into the writing process. We wanted to make something that deals with all those emotions, and hopefully be more vulnerable and transparent in how we feel. And and the idea when we started the band, like all those years ago, was to do things differently, hopefully, than most other death metal bands. At least that was our, young minds thinking, like, we don't want to be like the other ones. We want to be different, all that stuff, when you're 17. And and I guess that is always in the back of our minds, like what can we do that is not the typical death metal way of doing things.
Yeah.
So I think this is our most kind of vulnerable album, and it's very emotional in many ways, I think. And it was very, very difficult to write, emotionally, but also musically, because we needed to kind of find our footing. And I think once we got started and we kind of set the tone for what this album should be, uh, things started to happen. And I can honestly say that when once we were finished, we were sitting in the studio with the final mix. We said, like, yeah, this is as closest kind of like perfect album as we possibly can be,
Yeah.
and we could not be more proud of it. So it feels fantastic that the tour for this album so far has been some of the best tours we've ever done.
That's amazing that you guys have been able to take those experiences, turn it into music, but music that felt right for you guys
Yeah.
and that sounded right as well. I can imagine that would have been a hard process.
It always is, like, it's striking that right balance, or to make kind of, yeah, music or lyrics out of you're feeling and what you're experiencing. And
Yeah.
but that's what music should be. It's
Yeah.
easy to just write something heavy and write something simple and straightforward, fine, and everybody will go like, yay. But if it doesn't make you feel anything, then I think it's not that interesting for us.
Exactly. Definitely, I agree. In the early 90s, you helped define melodic death metal with albums like The Gallery and Character. Looking back, do you feel that label still accurately captures what you're doing musically today?
Yeah, I mean, I remember at the time, like in '96 or something like that, when everybody talked about like the Gothenburg Sound, and it was
Yeah.
kind of like this and that. It felt very restrictive, and not really a fun thing to be part of, because to me it meant that all the bands from Gothenburg sounded the same,
Yeah. Mm.
whereas we thought the opposite. We figured like, no, we were totally different from each other, and that was one of the kind of one of the big points that we were trying to make, was that we make music and it's melodic and it's death metal, but it's
Yeah.
it's very different from each other. Um, but at the same time, nowadays, if someone asks me we play, it's like, yeah, we play death metal, but with a lot of melodies, and that's it. So I'm absolutely fine with that. And
Yeah.
I think like mellow death, or whatever you want to call it, is yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. You
Yeah.
know.
Oh, awesome. And a different question now. What's the weirdest or coolest thing you've been given to by a fan?
Oh, weirdest, I don't know, like voodoo dolls and that kind of stuff. I received.
Hmm, interesting.
Um, it's a lot of toys, a lot of things. I think one of the coolest things, actually, like absolutely, well, actually, the coolest thing I got, it was in Spain. Late last year, November. There was this guy who's a professional model maker for movies. He does all these kind of tiny models that you film, and kind of like,
Yeah.
so he made like a resin model of me, and it constructed it. And it's like this tall.
Oh my gosh.
and it's absolutely gorgeous. I'm gonna
Wow.
post it on like my Instagram
Yeah.
soon because I still haven't, but it's incredibly cool. So it looks like an action figure you would buy in a geek store, you know, that kind of thing. But so that's super cool. I love
That's
it.
awesome. That's so cool. But nothing too weird or gross that you can't
Nothing gross,
decipher.
but
Yeah.
just sometimes you go like, oh, that's I received Christmas tree ornaments.
Oh,
I have a lot of beer mugs and coasters.
beautiful.
I have a lot of yeah, custom made T-shirts and that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's fantastic. I think
Yeah.
it's so cool, that it's such a generous thing, to do and generous gesture, and it's cool, when people just want to give back, for the the kind of the nowadays free gift of music that
Yeah.
that we provide. So I think it's amazing, and I'm really happy that we have such devoted and dedicated fans who will take time out of their lives, in order to make something for us. It's
Oh,
incredible.
that's lovely. Yeah. Your live performances have earned a reputation for their intensity and atmosphere. How do you prepare for a live show, especially when playing some of your older iconic material alongside new songs?
Oh, it's a bit of a nightmare putting a set list together. Obviously, it's too much to choose from. Um, but yeah, it kind of depends on territory sometimes. America, we played maybe a different set. Europe is kind of, we know what to expect in different countries, so we kind of adapt to that when it comes to set list. In terms of the show, like it also depends. In Europe, we do like a bigger production. It's easier and yeah, and financially doable. So we basic a lot around kind of visuals and projections and lights and stuff.
Mhm.
So it's all those things that kind of come into play. So it's a big plan, like planning stage that takes place months and months before we start touring for an album, and it's been cool lately, or for this touring cycle, to revisit some old songs that we just haven't played in forever, to kind of to spice it up a little bit and make it interesting for us, but also for diehard fans who get to see songs that they just missed or that we missed playing.
Yeah.
And but it's hard putting together a set that just feels right all the way through.
Yeah.
So in the beginning of a tour, we have way more songs that we can play in a night. So then we kind of change every other night, or in order to kind of finally get to that perfect set that just feels right, and has this kind of flow through it,
Yeah.
that feels good. But yeah, it's not easy, but it's also kind of fun, and it's cool to experiment. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it.
Worth it. And you like to keep it a bit fresh, obviously, for the
Yeah, of course.
fans.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Are there any bands or artists that you're listening to at the moment that you really enjoy or that you draw inspiration from?
Yeah, always. There's so much cool stuff out there. Um, for me, inspiration comes from just different kind of creativity. I think when I listen to music that is different from ours and different from what I maybe normally listen to. So I get inspired when I hear something that I don't understand. That is kind of so out there that you're like, hey, what's going on here? Like I don't know what this is. So I've been listening a lot to kind of instrumental, improvised psych rock and doom and psychedelic rock in general,
Yeah.
where it's mostly improvised and just kind of goes for it. So there is no way to have expectations where a song is going. It's just
Oh,
something that happens. It's kind of like jazz, but it heavy and cool,
yeah.
and it's just really inspiring when you listen to something. You can be totally focused, but you don't kind of apply those the occupational hazard that I of course have, going like, okay, where's this leading? Okay, where's this pre-chorus coming? And then okay, what's the next thing going to happen? When is the solo? That kind
Yeah.
of stuff. But when it's totally different, you can kind of relax in a way, and really enjoy it for what it is, and that it's inspiring. I think it doesn't kind of affect what we do, but it affects how I maybe I write lyrics sometimes. I listen to something that doesn't have lyrics, and I
Yeah.
start to think, what would I say here? What does this mean to me? And I really like that.
Wow, that's really interesting. I've never thought of that sort of music like that, thinking it of as a way of like, well, you don't know what's going to happen next, so just sit back and enjoy it. Because usually I like songs where I know can expect what's going to happen. That's
Yeah, I,
really,
I like that too, but like
yeah,
just in terms of like to get inspired,
yeah,
it's fun to do the opposite.
yeah. Music
Mm,
unconstrained. I like that.
mm.
Um, with such a long career, you've likely experienced some pretty surreal moments. What would you say is the most memorable or unexpected experience you've had so far on the road?
Oh wow, that's a lot.
Sorry.
Um, I remember kind of like early, or this was like 12, 14 years ago or something. We were in Busan, South Korea, and we had been touring for a while, and we played this festival. We didn't really know what it was. Like we were just trolling, drinking and partying all night, and finally ending up after a long train ride down to Busan, and like arriving there still kind of drunk early in the morning, like from traveling all night. And someone said like, yeah, you need to kind of get to this place. What's going on? Supposedly we were doing this outdoor festival. We didn't know. And for some reason I was given the keys to the city on a beach with a ceremony full of like hundreds of kids and people everywhere, a marching band playing
Gosh.
some Dark Tranquillity stuff, and the mayor of the city giving me the keys to the city, and I got and I signed a plaque that is now in on the beach in Busan. What? I had no idea. That was probably the most surreal. Like at least
Wow.
yeah, back then I was like, what is going on here? Like, how does this happen? Like, where are we? It was our first time or second time maybe in Korea ever, so
Yeah.
it was yeah. But that was cool.
Yeah, that's
And
so
then I still haven't been back. I want to go back and see if it's still there.
yeah, yeah, you got it. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So strange, but awesome. Um, your music often explores deep emotional and philosophical themes. You've briefly touched on this, but is there a particular message or concept you want fans to take away from Endgame Signals?
I think I mean, it kind of deals with how we cope with things that don't go our way, how we deal with loneliness, loss, grief, and I've always said like like before, like I've tried to be kind of positive and kind of have a positive outlook on things. Like eventually things will be fine, that kind of attitude. Whereas with this album or these last couple of years, haven't really felt that. I felt like, yeah, things are just gonna get worse before they get better. And so kind of not putting a positive spin on it felt really good. And I think maybe sometimes it's okay to kind of give in to feeling miserable
Yeah.
or being upset and angry, and that's what the album became. And I talked to a lot of people on this tour that have really yeah difficult experiences, and it's kind of been a comfort somehow to have someone or have music or a band that kind of is upfront about how horrible that can be. And I think there's a song on the album called "One of Us Is Gone," and it was the last song that we wrote for the album because we knew that it was going to be the most difficult one because it dealt with the death of our former guitar player Fredrik Johansson, who passed away 3 years ago. And he also, during the time when he was struggling with cancer, he wrote a lot of music. And he he said like I wrote all this stuff, and he gave it to us, and he said you can do whatever you want with it. Like if it's anything good, use it. That's so we decided to kind of use his music and kind of construct a song around it, and then have that be a tribute to him. But it also became a song about our how we dealt with the loss of our old friend, and that kind of became kind of like a cornerstone of the album, even though it was written last, but it was something that we knew was going to happen eventually. So we had to kind of almost shape the album around a song too difficult to write,
Yeah, yeah,
and
definitely. What a
so that really kind of affected us, and I think it just yeah, it's about dealing with things that maybe seem kind of too difficult to handle, but of course we can. I mean, we're resilient and we have all this strength in us that's still there, but it's sometimes really really hard to see.
Yeah, definitely. What a beautiful legacy that he left, but also um,
Yeah,
the way that he was able to help you guys write that last song as well.
yeah,
Really, really powerful.
it was awesome. Like
Yeah,
it was horrible, but it was great, and it felt really cathartic to kind of
yeah,
have it done and kind of get it ready. And of course, like the first people I played it to, I sent the song immediately to his his wife and his brothers, and like, hey, this is this all right? This is.
yeah,
And so it felt like, kind of like some kind of closure. It's never really closure, but it's
yeah.
still on one step out of the way,
That's it.
to feeling okay about it.
Yeah, yeah. And he was there with you as well at that time. Yeah, it's
Oh,
really special. Um, what does Dark Tranquillity mean to you?
and it means kind of like I mean, yeah, we started this when I was 14,
Yeah,
and it has been my main focus in life ever since. And it has led to pretty much every kind of relationship I have, with friends and fans and everybody. And it of course has taken us be, all over the world and done incredible cool things, and I've seen, yeah, the world many times over. So it's also like the outlet, the kind of the channel to kind of say something that maybe don't normally talk to about, and so it's the yeah it's one of the most important things, there is to me. So it, and so it's been great to kind of over the years kind of like share it and keep the legacy kind of going even now with kind of different musicians as well who understand what we're about and what it means to be in this band, and why we feel that, or why we should keep it different, or keep it as unique as possible. And so it's been incredible, and especially seeing like how it has kind of evolved over the years, like in terms of the people who listen to us and come to the shows, and how the audience has grown, and and how accepting and kind of open they are to whatever we do. Basically, it's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And just quickly, last question. If you weren't a musician, what do you think you'd be doing?
um I worked like kind of like in what do you call it, like I've been like a caretaker basically, and worked for
Yeah,
handicap organizations for the last 20 plus years or something like that. So maybe I would keep doing that. But if I didn't start the band in the beginning, I would probably do something in arts and design. That's what I kind of grew up loving, and that's how I met Niklas,
yeah,
because we shared like the passion for drawing and all kind of arts, and just um, and that's what we end up doing. Like we say, after school, we just sat and drew uh, for hours and hours, and then we decided to kind of switch to guitars, and that's how we started the band. But he's still an illustrator. But maybe I would have gone that path if I didn't have start playing guitar, because. But so it's cool. Like Niklas is still like the main. He does all the artwork and everything for DT and for the Halo effect as well.
yeah.
And but maybe I would have done that. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you're obviously very, very creative. But also, I just wanted to commend you on your job being a support worker because that's something I've always considered going into as well, actually, myself. And I think it takes a certain type of person to do that.
It's incredibly rewarding,
Yeah.
and it's a cool thing to have. Like I had a very flexible. I stopped working up a couple of years ago, but before that, it was very flexible,
Yeah.
and just also like you're helping someone.
That's it.
It's a good contrast to come from a tour where everything is kind of handled and taken care of,
Yeah.
to be the opposite when you get home. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Oh,
Now I just don't have any time. But
yeah. Yeah. No, that's amazing. Oh, Mikhail, it was so lovely to speak with you today. We can't wait to see you guys down under. Thank you so much.
awesome. See you soon.
Thank you. See ya.